Rabbi Friedman, thank you so much. It's Tuesday, the best day of the week. We get a chance to speak with you, get some wisdom, get some insight, get some strength, because that's what spirituality is today. It gives us strength and wisdom and some sort of direction, which unfortunately we don't get in too many places today. So I just want to say that before COVID, as COVID just started, it was scary. People didn't know what to expect. And the mantra that you gave on right before, to be positive, optimistic, and kind, was something that truly, I don't know, I'll speak personally, got me through a lot of very tough times. And I hope it did the same for a lot of other people. But right now, it's a little bit harder to keep that mantra going. And I feel like we maybe need another one to, because the times, they have changed. We're like kind of in the next phase. And how can people keep sanity, mental health in such a world of disarray when there's no truth, no direction, no leadership, and no security, unfortunately, either.
In other words, we don't know. We started this year on the note that this is going to be a year of surprises. We talked about that online, didn't we?
Yes, we did.
It's going to be a year of surprises. And the only thing you can expect is the unexpected. Well, it certainly lived up to that reputation. One surprise on top of another surprise, and really, we don't know anything. We don't even know if this virus was really necessary to have the isolation and the quarantine. We don't know if it's coming back, it's going away. We don't know. Not only because we can't believe anything we hear, but because we really don't know. So the whole thing is a mystery. The whole thing is like, it makes me wonder. The isolation. It makes me wonder, when you read about the 10 plagues in Egypt, what were the people then thinking? One plague, then another plague, then another plague. Were they in the same quandary that we're in? Don't know what tomorrow is going to bring. What in the world is going on? Nature is falling apart. The world is turning upside down. The not knowing is very difficult for a human being. But that famous example, when we go from one reality to another, maybe better, there has to be a blank space in between. You can't just drag your old habits into a new life. So in order to make a real change, a significant change, there has to be a blank space or a blank moment where everything that used to be stops so that you can start something completely different without dragging the old stuff with you. So that's what we're going through. We're going through that dark moment between one good reality and another better reality. And the example is given, if you're walking on the street, you feel pretty secure, because what it takes to move from one place to another, the act of walking, is not terribly scary. But if you're climbing a ladder, you're a little insecure, because in order to get to the next rung, you have to take 1 foot off the rung that you're standing on solidly, securely. You have to take 1 foot off. So for a moment, you're standing on 1 foot. Insecure. Don't know. That's the in-between moment. But it's absolutely necessary if you want to get to the second rung. If you want to stay secure on the rung you're on, you'll never climb. So it is a scary, confusing moment. I don't know why it's taking so long for us to let go of the old thinking and the old habit and get ready for the new one. But obviously, we're stubborn. We don't let go so easily. So it is a moment of transition. And transition is insecure and confusing and scary. But if we know where we're going, we can go with confidence. So just knowing that we're going to another solid rung that is even better than the one we're on, that's how you climb a ladder. So don't lose it. We're still on the same trajectory. We're still expecting surprises.
It's just it would be great to get a clear direction like we did from you with COVID. It was easy to wake up every morning and say, okay, be positive, be optimistic, be kind. And that was just the direction that, I personally woke up with every morning and tried to spread it around. And that was very helpful. What would be the direction right now, the emotional, strategic direction that we should take right now in order to handle this phase?
All right. So the first thing is, it would be nice to see the evidence of the beneficial effect of thinking positive. We have become vastly improved because of the virus. It's a better world today. You just don't see it in the news. But everybody knows in their own life that things got better. We matured, we were wiser, we're kinder, we're more thoughtful, we're actually more relaxed because we're settled down, we're home. It's very sad that nobody reports it and there's no statistic about it and so on. There's this joke online where somebody said, the number of people getting COVID is growing. That's only because we're testing more. So if you do tests, you'll find more COVID people. He said, if you did tests on IQ, you would find more idiots. So it would be nice to see the evidence because it's very positive. Now, all of that positive improvement is concealed behind the riots and the fireworks and the fear of a repeat, of a return of COVID. So, what do we make of the riots? What do we make of the ugliness? Well, you watch the ugliness become more and more absurd, and you have to laugh. This is so crazy. A company, a very big manufacturing company of cosmetics, declared that it will no longer use the word whitening in their toothpaste. This is insane. And who benefits from this? Nobody. So let's take a look for a moment at this occurrence. Black Lives Matter. Well, all lives matter. We're being so ridiculous. It's so childish. By saying lives matter, are you making things better? Everybody's trying to make things better, obviously. And we always make it worse. Lives matter. That is such a bad statement. Because matter, what does that mean? What does it mean it matters? What does that mean?
Means
It's
something.
nonsense.
Yeah.
It's a meaningless word. In fact, it invites debate and discussion. If you say this matters, well, to whom? How much does it matter? It makes life negotiable. Lives matter? Well, how much? To whom? When? For what? Who says they matter? The whole thing is debatable. Life is sacred. And what that means in simple terms, it doesn't matter whether life matters. You're not allowed to murder, and you're not allowed to steal. And it doesn't matter whether it matters. So even if life doesn't matter to you, you still can't kill. That's morality. When you say life matters, you're just opening a debate. And you see it immediately. Well, Black lives matter. No, all lives matter. Okay, where is this going to go? Stop trying to improve on the Ten Commandments. It never happened yet. And then the battle against racism. We got to get rid of racism. We have to stop hating. We have to start loving. This is such fiction. It's so Hollywood. We're all going to start loving each other. We haven't even stopped shooting at each other. You're talking about love. But this is crazy.
Well, it's been Hollywood all this time. That was the reality of the world, unfortunately.
And where in the entire Torah, if we want to know what's true, you got to look into the Torah. What does the Torah say about racism? Absolutely nothing. It says, don't murder, don't steal, don't lie, don't give false testimony. Against whom? Now, don't start that. There is no distinctions. You don't lie, you don't steal, you don't bear false witness against anybody. Don't start with the racism business. So what we need to do is simply go back to being moral. Stop with these political nonsense campaigns that just divide people more and more. So you want to hate me? You're entitled. I can't force you to love me. I can't legislate love. I can't make hate illegal. That's foolish. You can hate me all you want. And you can think that I'm inferior. You can think that I'm unnecessary in this world. You can have your opinion. You can have your feelings. But you have to be moral. So I don't mind what your opinion of me is. But your behavior, your actions, that's what needs to be moral. Maybe after all our actions are moral, we can get a little more ambitious and go up a rung and have a finer set of feelings or a more godly opinion of things. But until that happens, I spoke yesterday to a chief of police in California. Very, very nice guy, and he sincerely wants to understand what is he supposed to do. So one of the things we spoke about is the police are called the law enforcement people. Law enforcement doesn't sound good. What police are supposed to be is law maintenance. You maintain the laws that the people chose to live by. You don't come and enforce laws that the people don't want. A democracy means people get together, write down on a charter their values and the life they want to live, and then they elect a government that's going to maintain their values and a police force that will maintain the laws that they decided they want to have. You don't put laws on people who didn't ask for it. That's a dictatorship.
Rabbi Friedman, but it doesn't seem like anybody is listening to the people anymore, because people want the police. It's only a small amount of people that does not want this, but no one is listening to the masses.
But on the other hand, it is true that the whole structure and the whole nature of the police force needs to be rethought. It's true. It's gotten way out of hand. It's the police against the people, and the people against the police. Well, that can't be. It can't be antagonistic. The police have to be your friend who serve the purpose of the lifestyle that you've chosen. So I suggested to the policeman, send a policeman into every public school in your community and ask the children, what kind of a neighborhood would you like to have, and we'll give it to you. Tell us what kind of neighborhood you would like to have. You like to have a neighborhood where motorcycles come roaring through at the loudest sound possible in the middle of the night? No, you don't want that. Okay, we'll stop it. Do you want people lounging around the streets all hours of the night, teenagers? Or should we ask a teenager in the streets, why are you doing up so late? You want us to do that? We'll do it. You don't want us to do it? We won't do it. You create your community, we'll help you. Get the kids thinking. Get families thinking. Tell me what kind of neighborhood you want, and we will maintain that. The force should be a rare occasion. Because if the community is not tolerant of crime, the crime goes away. There'll be an exception, so the policeman will be there to take care of that exception. But as a rule, the police are there to keep the laws that you make, not that they make. So, sadly, because the education is so poor and teaches no values and no belief and no accountability and no morality, unfortunately, the police have to become part of the educational system. Go into the schools. Once a week, go into the schools and talk to the students. Have community meetings. Talk to the parents. When your teenager is on the street after 1 o'clock, you want us to bring him home? Tell us what you want. You don't mind if he runs around in the middle of the night? Okay, then we'll leave him alone. Don't live by my laws, live by your laws. When we have cooperation, good things can happen. But the point of it is, if we don't have personal values, then you can't have a police force. Because that's just a declaration of war. I don't want to live by rules, and you're imposing rules. This will never get resolved. Rotten at the core.
Then the best question is, how do we get our values back? What is the strategy to do that?
We need an awakening. That's all. We need to simply find the failure of our lifestyle staring us in the eyes. And that's what we're seeing. And that's the good news. The good news is the way we've been living is such a colossal failure. Look. It's embarrassing that intelligent people could actually have thought, even for a moment, that this ridiculous lifestyle could work. So, we don't need any more motivation than that. It's not working. All debate is over. You can say whatever you want. It's not working for anybody. So, let's go back to what does work and stop trying to improve on God. God said, do not kill. Don't say we should love each other. We're always trying to improve on God.
Actually, actually, we got a very interesting question over this week from Ivan, who simply asks, how do Jews know that they are right?
What, does anybody disagree? Actually, it's a good question. The real answer is nobody disagrees. What Judaism says is not debatable. Nobody debates it. Nobody disagrees with it. So why should we think we're wrong? And what is it that nobody disagrees with? Nobody comes and says, I know that God said something different than what you claim God said. Judaism says that God came down to Mount Sinai and gave us the 10 Commandments. Does anybody disagree with that? Does any religion disagree with that? No. So why should I think I'm wrong? Oh, you have atheists who don't believe in God at all. Okay, that's their problem. They're not disagreeing. So it's not like we have two opinions. There's only one opinion. We got to, you cut through the noise and you get to the basics. There is no disagreement.
We actually got another question along the same lines from Galina, who asked, where is the proof that Torah was given by God and not written by man?
Where is the proof that your mother is your mother?
The nurse was there?
No, wait. Did anybody suggest that maybe your mother is not your mother? You see, if somebody would come along and say, we got a problem, because you claim that on a certain day on the Hebrew calendar, God spoke to the people at Mount Sinai. Well, I happen to know that on that very day, God was in Cleveland. Okay, now we got a problem. Because you have two facts, and you got to figure out which one is correct, because they can't both be correct. You know anybody who disagrees with the event at Sinai? Why do we make up questions that don't need to be asked? How do you know your mother is your mother? What's your problem? What's your problem? Is there any reason for me to doubt that my mother is my mother? Why are you creating problems where there isn't any? It's not intelligent. It's paranoia. How do I know anything? How do I know I'm really talking right now? Don't go crazy. That's not an intelligent question. So somebody says, how do you know God gave the 10 Commandments? So what, do you have conflicting information? No conflicting information. So what's your problem? Your problem is you don't really know what God is, and you can't imagine God speaking to people. Okay, so say so. What we're lacking is understanding, not proof. As long as we're on the subject, this is really important. I don't know if we've talked about this before. Let's do it again anyway. An explorer comes back from Australia. First time. And he says, there's an animal down there that hops around on 2 legs and carries its babies in a pocket. An intelligent person says, oh, come on. Don't expect me to believe that. I'm not so naive. I'm an educated person. I don't believe you. Is he being intelligent?
No, ignorant.
On what grounds does he not believe?
Because he didn't.
If you don't believe, you don't have to make sense at all. Non-belief is always acceptable. Why? On what grounds do you not believe? On the grounds that you never saw such a thing. You can't say that to an explorer. What, you saw something I didn't see? Yes, I'm an explorer. That's what I get the big bucks for. I never heard of such a thing. That is not an argument. Every time you learn something new, you hadn't heard it before. So how ignorant do you have to be so close-minded that if I didn't see it and I haven't already heard of it, I don't accept it? That's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Nothing intelligent about it at all. So when the explorer comes back and says, I saw an animal that hops around and carries its baby in a pocket, you should say, tell me more. What does it eat? Does it lay eggs? Does it live long? Where does it live? In dry areas, and find out more. You're learning something. This non-belief is such an emotional reaction. What are you, afraid of new things? You're too arrogant to admit that there's still more to learn? What is your problem?
Rabbi Friedman, speaking about learning, so people haven't learned anything about, well, I don't know. Most people have not learned about spirituality. It hasn't been taught in school. It's not taught in homes, a lot of the homes. So yes, the Jewish people, the observant Jewish people who are born into it, they start learning about spirituality, about God from birth. And they still don't get the entire concept or get all of the information that's out there. As much as they learn, there's still a lot more. Now, if people will want to find out now and learn now, they will need some sort of a crash course. They will need some kind of quick fix on this topic. If people all of a sudden now start to understand that this is the problem with the world, and they want to really get to know this topic as fast as possible, how would they go about doing that?
Well, let's start right here. Lesson number 1. What does spiritual mean? We're not good at spiritual subjects. We're not taught spiritual. What's spiritual? A good definition is always helpful. There are things we can see, and there are things we can't see. The things we can't see are not spiritual. We shouldn't lump them all together. Anything I can't see is spiritual. You can't see an atom unless you look under a microscope, an atomic microscope. And you can't see an electron. And you can't see a quark. So it's spiritual? It's not spiritual. It's the invisible, physical reality that we all experience every single day. Everything is made up of these atoms and electrons and quarks, or whatever they're called. So there is a dimension of the physical universe that is not visible. It doesn't make it spiritual. There are certain sounds, decibels, that are too high for the human ear. That makes it spiritual. Dogs can hear it. I don't know that dogs are more spiritual than we are. So the argument that if I can't see it, I don't believe it, that's foolish. All of modern science and physics is all about things we can't see and will never be able to see. So what then is spiritual? Spiritual is a certain sensitivity, a certain response, a delicate, refined experience, maybe even romantic. Romantic is a little spiritual. And so some people are just not romantic. They're not good at it. They don't have that sensitivity. So if they want to say, I love you, they just say it. Why don't you wait for the right moment? Create a little atmosphere. Then say it. See, that would be romantic. But they don't get it. I feel like I love you, so I'm telling you, I love you. I know we're in the middle of a meal. So spiritual doesn't mean things we can't see. Spiritual means your reaction to things. That's a very subjective. See, electrons are not subjective. Spiritual is a subjective response to stimulus. So there's a spiritual stimulus that some people just don't get. Maybe they don't need it. So what is God? Is God spiritual? No. Your reaction to him could be spiritual. So if you're really grateful to God for the miracle that happened to you, that's spiritual. But the miracle that happened to you, that's physical. So God is not subjective. God is God, the original substance from which everything else comes. That's physical. Physical in the sense that it's objective. Now, how does that make you feel? Okay, that's a spiritual subject. So the first thing we need is to learn the facts of godliness before we get to the spiritual. Spiritual is almost a reward. When you get that feeling or that sensation of gratitude or awe, like Einstein said, studying the universe leaves you in awe. In awe of whom? He didn't really want to say. But that awe, that's spiritual. But everything he was looking at is physical. Even an abstract mathematical equation is physical. Can't see it with your eye. But that doesn't make it spiritual.
So would it be correct to say that spiritual is a feeling, an emotion?
Mm-hmm.
And apparently, then it's the emotion towards God.
Or it could be towards your spouse. With you, I am in heaven. See, that's spiritual. You make my life worthwhile. That's spiritual. What so spiritual means? A matter of spirit, not a physical fact. A matter of spirit. The spirit with which you experience the physical.
Which then translates into the energy that you give out.
Enthusiasm for life is spiritual. So who can live without enthusiasm for life?
Sad people. Again, my point is just to try to relate to people who obviously, maybe I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but this is my view of the world right now, that it's lost. And you, Rabbi Friedman, we're not at the disagreement here with you, I'm sure, that, which is what you said today, that everything is the way it is because there is no center, there's no real truth, and truth became so vague and individual. And again, the whole point is for people to find values. Everything is still leading to God, no matter how we swing it. No matter how we swing it. And I'm speaking to on the Russian radio, where we have non-Jewish people listening to us, Jewish people, people who don't believe in God, atheists, people who are religious. We have all walks of life listening to us right now. And I'm just trying to help make sense of what is happening. So if we were to do this step by step, what would be the first step? Learn the values?
I think the first step is decide what you want. What do you want? You don't even know that yet. What kind of life do you want? You have no idea. Just leave me alone. Leave me alone. Leave you alone to do what? I don't know yet. Well, so you have no idea what your life should be, what you want it to be, even if it's not the truth. Do you have any idea what you want out of your life? If you can articulate it, if you can write it down on a piece of paper, do so. And then examine it and say, really, this is what I want. Maybe I should want something else. But start with something. Like you say, this vague, undefined existence is just too frustrating. The mind can't handle this chaos. So before we get to the perfect life, first define what you think is life, even if it's not perfect. But start thinking. See, that's Chabad. Chabad says, start with what you know. Before you get too ambitious, start with what you know. What do you think life is? Take a look at it. Don't be afraid. And then ask yourself, is this good enough? Is this the life I should want? See, now we're starting to become responsible, intelligent partners with God. Because now you're saying, but what's really real? What was always real? Not just my opinion. But start with your opinion. At least have an opinion. Just leave me alone and I'll be fine. That's teenage talk.
Rabbi Friedman, this is amazing. And I think, unfortunately, as always, this is radio and we always run out of time here. But I think this is a great advice that you gave today, is to really just stop and think of what we as individual want. And not of what society tells us what we want, not of what others are telling us what we want, but of what we as individuals really, really want. And I think that's a perfect advice. I hope whoever is listening to us right now, or will listen later on YouTube or Facebook, will do that. And then I hope to continue next week, because I think we just got this party started.
Next week we will have more good news.
Bezrat Hashem. Amen. We'll take your word for it, Rabbi Friedman. Thank you so much. And thank you for being with us as always. It's amazing. Thank you.
Thank you for the privilege.
Thank you.
Sei gesund.
Sei gesund.